Welcome to Mass Effect, Synthesis. A Mass Effect AU fanfiction. Thank you for listening. Let's begin. Chapter 2 First Contact. February 15, 2152, long-range scanners pick up multiple objects approaching Sol system beyond the Oort cloud. The Sol Alliance military moves ships to intercept, but some remain guarding the Charon device. Even if the entire Sol system fleet had moved to intercept, preliminary estimates for the best case indicate that they would be outnumbered 1,000 to 1. February 16, 2152, long-range scanners show objects to be ships, and based on their long-distance outline they are named prawns. The objects pass through the Oort cloud, after which most stop but 1,000 continue on, eerily matching the numbers of the Sol system fleet. Evacuations of the major cities on Earth begin and all colony worlds are ordered into lockdown. February 17, 2152, the unknown vessels stop at Saturn and wait. No signals are sent and they do not respond to hails. Scans show that they range in size from 160 meters to 2 kilometers long behemoths. Closer inspection indicates that they look like a cross between a scorpion, a prawn and a cuttlefish. Arching tails, multiple legs near the front of the body and armored exterior. February 19, 2152, Sol system, Saturn orbit, Harbinger. The disposition of the ships said a lot about this race. They were arrogant and they did not know the extent of their weakness, but they were prepared to try to fight, even in the face of overwhelming odds. And despite the threat presented to them, they did not forsake the possibility of other threats. He was pleased to sense that some ships remained at the relay. Still, this gesture was futile, and if this came to a battle, it would not be much of a fight. The humans could possibly take out 2, maybe 3 of his forces, if they rammed them, but that was it, and that would be if they were lucky. But he had not come to fight. He had come to contact them. Synthesis would be best if they were willing. Combat would only serve to kill those they required. Automatically Harbinger reached out towards the organic mines, but halfway he paused. His usual method of contact could be forceful. It would most likely overwhelm him, and he could not take the risk of damaging an organic who was meant for synthesis. With absolutely no sign of frustration, he altered tactics, initiating contact with the ships. The humans had firewalls, they had some protection against cyber warfare, but against a living machine. Their defenses were pitiful, and it was only an instant later that every screen on every human vessel showed the same message. Halfway through its composition, Harbinger paused again. He had no name for his species. They never needed one, never cared. They just were. The Protheans had named them Reapers. Most cycles the organics named them, and every cycle they disregarded the name. They were eternal, they were above names. But from the information the collectors had provided him, these humans placed a great importance on names, and for the sake of their willing cooperation he wanted to appear as friendly as possible. He could control their leaders, but there were only a few organics who blindly followed. He would be disappointed if these humans were that type. Hesitation lasted 0.002 seconds. Noticeable only to those watching, but certainly not to the organics. The message was sent and he awaited a reply. To the Sol Alliance and all of humanity, greetings. I am Harbinger and I have traveled across the galaxy to meet you. February 19, 2152, Sol Alliance Command Carrier Emden. Hannah Shepard sat at her station on the bridge. She could hear every beat of her heart and her throat was dry, and she knew, without looking around, that she wasn't the only one feeling like this. The entire fleet felt the same, and though the Alliance had rallied all the ships it could, they were still outnumbered, and if the passive scans they had dared were anything to go by, they were completely outgunned. She swallowed. That didn't matter. For the sake of everyone on Earth, for the sake of the colonies, if this came to a battle, they had to try to fight. Humanity would not go down without at least trying to take their aggressors with them. These ships had appeared out of nowhere, but the long-range scanners showed that their destination was obvious. They were heading towards Earth. They were fast, faster than anything humans possessed, and even if they somehow, miraculously managed to defeat the 1,000 that had entered the solar system, everyone knew there were another 999,000 just waiting inside the Oort cloud. Whatever was piloting those ships knew exactly how to make their point. Resistance was futile. But when had humans ever listened to warnings? There was always the chance they were peaceful. Hannah resisted the urge to snort. Anyone with eyes could see the weaponry on those ships. Peace didn't seem like much of an option, though it was something to pray for. Wah? Hannah let out a startled cry as her screens disappeared. She began typing, and even as she focused on bringing back the screens she was meant to be monitoring, she could hear that she wasn't the only one. Everyone on the bridge appeared to be having the same problem. They hacked us, she realized, even as the message appeared, and she felt her heart contract in fear. Any race that could hack them that fast could do just about anything to the ship. They wouldn't even need to fire a shot if they didn't want. They could just set the Emden to self-destruct, and from the speed of the hack, there would be nothing they could do but watch the countdown. It took a few moments for her to read her screen and comprehend the words, and as she did her hands slowed their frantic typing and she just stared, drawing in great lungfuls of air. The words were in English and they said something impossible. To the Sol Alliance and all of humanity, greetings. I am Harbinger and I have traveled across the galaxy to meet you. Hannah gulped and then turned to look at the Admiral. He was as shocked as the rest of them. The central screen on the bridge altered. It showed Harbinger's message, but below it there was a blinking cursor, an obvious invitation to reply. But what could they say? How the hell did you respond to a first contact message like that? Whatever they were, with their greeting they had shown their superiority. They spoke their language, they could hack their ships, and messages were coming over the line that every ship in the fleet had experienced the same. Not one of them had been untouched. Comms, Admiral Kohaku regained his composure. Send this in reply, to the unknown vessels in orbit around Saturn, welcome to the Sol system. I am Admiral Kohaku of the Sol Alliance, what are your intentions? As the Admiral dictated and the words were typed, Hannah knew that Harbinger, and probably the entire alien fleet, were seeing them. She could only hope that their intentions were peaceful. February 19, 2152, Sol System, Saturn Orbit, Harbinger. Harbinger watched the reply. For organics they recovered from their obvious surprise quickly and they got straight to the point. So he would. There was no purpose in hiding their desires because there was no choice. This race would submit or they would risk destroying those required for synthesis. It would be acceptable to kill some if others reached it. We have traveled from beyond the galactic rim with purpose. We wish for synthesis. He watched the reactions of the humans. They were confused but thankful that there had been no attack. In that instant, Harbinger could tell that they had lost none of their resolve. Synthesis? The single word was his only answer, though he could hear the human fleet communicating amongst themselves. Their chatter was pointless. Harbinger flashed up the image he had seen years ago. The DNA scan the collectors had provided him of this race. With it, he provided his own scan, highlighting the similarities, showing them that they fit the profile required. Synthesis, he replied. Union with the beings who meet this profile. With us all? Just the individual. One for each of us. The humans remained silent for a long time and Harbinger just watched. They were struggling to comprehend and they were struggling to avoid making a mistake. His words were no doubt a revelation for them. Their presence was a revelation, and at this point Harbinger wasn't sure if the humans understood. We do not understand. Harbinger. They are organic, they will never understand. We should just take those we need. We will not, Harbinger replied forcefully, shifting slightly so that the speaker knew that he would meet any action. The humans were confused, but they were not hostile, and this was well within the scope of his plan. What is Harbinger? The question came from the humans and it was telling. It was a question that spoke of intelligence. Limited intelligence because they were only organic, but intelligence. I am Harbinger, he responded, and altered their screen to show their own view of him. Harbinger is the ship? The humans could definitely state the obvious, so he replied with more images. He took one of the Admiral and displayed the human's name above it, before dividing the screen and showing the image of himself with his name above him, and as Harbinger watched their internal cameras he could see that some of the humans understood. Others were still confused, but he dismissed them. They did not matter. Their next reply would decide their future. February 19, 2152, Sol Alliance Command Carrier Emden. My God, Hannah breathed as she looked at the image. Sentient machines, she whispered, and she looked over to Admiral Kohaku. He understood as well but was as shocked as the rest of them. What do they mean, synthesis? Someone muttered, and Hannah realized that was a very good question. This was like some bad science fiction movie. The Admiral nodded at the question. Let's take this slow, he said, his voice firm. Issue orders to the fleet. No one is to fire. We are still talking, though I'm sure everyone knows that. That was true. Harbinger had yet to release his hack and no one had been able to free any system. He had allowed them to keep communications between their ships, but the only way they could fire would be through the manual methods. It was slower, but it was proof against cyber warfare. Some had argued against keeping such archaic means, but the logic was proven now. Comms, Admiral Kohaku said, getting their attention again. Reply, you are living machines? Yes. What is synthesis? The Admiral knew what the word meant to him, but did it mean the same for a machine? Union between synthetic and organic, the reply came without so much as an instant of hesitation, but it continued. For each there is one organic, one whose genetic structure allows perfect synthesis between ourselves and them. Hannah couldn't believe her eyes. This was not how first contact went. Humanity had imagined almost every scenario, from peaceful to powerful aliens hell-bent on humanity's destruction, but never, no one. This was nothing that had been pictured. Living machines who wanted them? The religious sects on Earth were likely to go crazy. Was this the hand of God? Did God even extend to machines? Providence? How did you find us? Admiral Kohaku asked the obvious question. We watch all species. Sir, Hannah said before she even knew she was speaking. The only humans who could possibly be outside of Sol system space would be John Grissom and his team. Quote. That is correct. The reply from Harbinger flashed across the main view screen before the Admiral could reply, and Hannah's hands flew to her mouth as she watched with wide eyes. We closed the relay for your own protection. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. The answer, if true, was. It explained so much, but it was worthless. The information had no bearing on now. Harbinger, what if we refuse? While it was obvious that Harbinger had already heard it, the comm officer dutifully typed the reply. As a species or individuals? Species. There was no instant reply, but they watched as Harbinger turned suddenly in space, and there was a brilliant volley of energy. One of the smaller alien ships exploded before Harbinger turned back to face the humans. I have just destroyed one of my kind to avoid war. Ignorance will be addressed. Hannah watched. The level of destruction? She wasn't so naive as to believe Harbinger's explanation. Above her, Admiral Kohaku took a deep breath before he spoke again. It is not my decision to make. Once again I welcome you to Sol System, and as you come in peace I invite you to approach Earth to speak with our government. I would request that the rest of your forces hold position. That is acceptable. The words had barely appeared before Hannah's screen returned to normal. Across the fleet everything returned to normal, and it was almost as if nothing had happened. But on the main screen, the conversation was still displayed and around the bridge. Various smaller screens showed Harbinger, silent against the backdrop of Saturn. Hannah gulped in a breath. And another. Shivers traveled over her body, and for one instant she closed her eyes and gave thanks. They had survived today. February 19, 2152, Sol System, Saturn Orbit, Harbinger. That had gone almost exactly as he had predicted it would. The organic was pragmatic, but that was suitable. Negotiation with the ruling body was both a predictable outcome from today and had predictable outcome. They might make demands, but in the end they would agree with his desires. That is acceptable, he replied, releasing control on the ships, and instantly he was bombarded by the others. He was not interested in their complaints. Synthesis was too important for pride to get in the way. Remain here, he ordered, cutting through all arguments. Negotiations will be short, Harbinger added as he moved forward to take position beside the human ship Emden. With what he was willing to offer the humans, they would give him whatever he wanted. March 3, 2152, agreement between the Sol Alliance and the still unnamed race of sentient ships was reached. Despite attempts to explain, it was still unclear what synthesis was, but Harbinger had made assurances that it would be an individual choice. Once that was made clear, Earth's governing body fell over themselves to reach agreement. On the surface it was a supremely good agreement for a young space-faring race. On a deeper level the pragmatic looked for the trap and worried when they could not find it. The exchange was simple. Every human's DNA would be mapped and compared to the coding provided by Harbinger's forces. Where a match was found, the individuals would meet and decide upon synthesis. Each new human would be DNA mapped and tested at age 18. It was felt that was old enough to make such a decision. In exchange for this, Harbinger and his forces pledged to defend Earth. If any alien race approached with hostile intent, they would be destroyed by the prawn-like ships. It seemed a moot point with the relay closed. But as one politician pointed out, since Harbinger and his people had come the old-fashioned way, others could certainly duplicate that. This pledge of defense was coupled with samples of advanced technology, and after the scientists had a preliminary look at it and estimated that humanity would advance by at least 100 years if allowed to properly study and understand it, the Earth government was only too happy to reach an accommodation. Approximately 100 senior prawns refused to provide the DNA data required. They merely state that they will wait for their leader, Harbinger, to undergo synthesis before they will agree to it. This causes some distress for the Sol Alliance, as it indicates that not all of the prawns want what their leader has negotiated. The senior prawns deny this, merely saying that Harbinger is the first of them and that they would always follow where he lead, and as such, they could not go ahead. As there is no changing their minds, their refusal is overlooked, though speculation does reign as to Harbinger's thoughts on the matter. He does not make his opinion known. March 4, 2152, technology provided by Harbinger's forces is shown to map human DNA in a day. Previously, a single individual's DNA might have taken weeks or months to map. Harbinger allows the Sol Alliance to scan him several times. The results are odd. While the general belief is that the prawns are machines, the scans show that this isn't the case. The prawns scan as partially organic. Their hulls are a carbon composite with clear organic links, though other parts are purely machine. In the end, it is decided not to enlighten the public about the quasi-organic nature of the prawns. Rather, when an individual is found for synthesis, they will be privately informed. It gives a sense of peace to many in command to know that the prawns are not wholly machine, but it does raise questions as to where their organic composition came from. March 10, 2152, the majority of Harbinger's forces take up positions around Earth. Harbinger takes up a stationary position over the North Pole. 100,000 of his forces, including 5,000 capital-class ships, take up position at the relay, reinforcing the Sol Alliance defense fleet. March 12, 2152, resistance forces to the prawns begin to take shape, but militant action is met with strong military presence and almost all riots are quelled without loss of life. Warnings were provided to human police and military by Harbinger's forces of the gathering militants. This trend continues over time, though the sentient ships never give any indication of how they know violence is brewing. March 15, 2152, the first samples from existing humanity are taken for DNA mapping and testing. It's a highly publicized event, with the President, Admiral Kohaku, and the head of the Sol Alliance military forces being the first samples taken. March 20, 2152, humans formally ask for a group designation by which they may refer to Harbinger's kind. Prawns was considered insulting. Harbinger informs the human government that if necessary his kind should simply be referred by what they are, SIL, synthetic intelligent life, or by their individual names. June 17, 2152, Hannah Shepard's DNA is mapped. To date, it is one of the closest matches to the required strands but falls short on specifics. Testing of her immediate family is authorized on an accelerated program, but no match is confirmed. Humanity continues to hold its breath, awaiting the first confirmed match. July 31, 2152, Harbinger is formally given the rank of Fleet Admiral within the Sol Alliance. Various other SILs are given Navy ranks as they form the main defense fleet of the Sol system. SILs are formalized into 4 classes: frigate, cruiser, carrier and dreadnought, though Harbinger says their names are different and the equivalent names are adopted. Destroyer, Imperial, Regal and Sovereign classes of SIL are acknowledged. One human admiral asks Harbinger what class he is, and the reply is, beyond Sovereign. Only Regal and Sovereign classes are considered capital ships. August 3, 2152, military forces ask why no SIL will agree to act as a troop carrier. Informing the question, it is noticed that no SIL has ever had human presence within them. Harbinger answers that it is for humanity's protection. In his time observing humans, he has become familiar with language and the idiosyncrasies of it, and his reply is considered droll. Our internal EMP fields, that which makes us, would scramble your brains. Disappointment floods the scientific community, which had been hoping for a look at the internals, but the explanation, with further clarification, is accepted. Systems Alliance cyber warfare firewalls are tested by the SIL. During first contact, the firewalls had lasted 0.0017 seconds against Harbinger. The new firewalls last 2.394 seconds, a vast improvement but not nearly long enough. The SIL offer no comment on how to improve the firewalls, but the Sol Alliance analysts take the destroyed coding and begin afresh. A reward is offered for the first person who can design a code that can last a full minute, and each year tests are made, though it takes 7 years for the minute mark to be reached. August 23, 2152, the first match is found. It is not to a capital-class ship but one of the destroyers. The human, Yang Levi, agrees to synthesis even before the destroyer-class SIL Wydron has been recalled from the relay. August 24, 2152, Yang Levi enters Wydron and synthesis begins. To the disappointment of watching humanity, it is not an instantaneous process and Wydron flies towards the sun. Harbinger provides sensor readings to prove that nothing is amiss, and both SIL and humanity wait. August 24, 2152, to February 17, 2153, over 2,000 humans on Earth and the colonies are confirmed to be genetic matches. Some agree to synthesis while others decide to wait until Wydron and Yang Levi can demonstrate what is required and what the effects are. February 17, 2153, the Sol Alliance approaches Harbinger with a request to reopen the Charon device, which they now know is called a Mass Effect Relay. Arguments had been prepared, but to the surprise of those petitioning Harbinger, he agrees with a few minor alterations to the existing agreement between SIL and humanity. The revised conditions were as follows. No alien is ever invited into Sol space without the express permission of both the Sol Alliance and the SIL. All human colonists from the extrasolar planets are to be DNA mapped before leaving the Sol system, and all children born on settlement worlds are to be DNA mapped immediately after birth. If a child is found to be a match, the family will immediately re-immigrate to Earth. Unspoken behind Harbinger's agreement is the knowledge that humanity will need a much larger population base to produce ground troops. Harbinger seeks synthesis, and while he acknowledges it was meant to end the cycle, he cannot see how that will happen. The cycle will continue, one way or another, and the harvest of spacefaring species has always been easier with adequate ground troops. February 19, 2153, on the first anniversary of first contact, the Charon Mass Effect Relay is reopened. A Sol Alliance military vessel is the first through to explore the new system. On Earth and all colonies, celebrations are held to commemorate first contact with the SIL. February 28, 2153, the first colony ships depart through the Charon relay. Harbinger consults with others from the Sol Alliance, and it is agreed that the SILs may call upon an ally to aid in the screening of human DNA. March 5, 2153, the first colony ships land on Shanxi and the first planet not in the Sol system is colonized. March 10, 2153, a collector ship arrives in Sol system and is met by the defense fleet. March 11, 2153, the human government meets the collectors, who have been instructed to treat humanity with respect. The result is groveling, but the meeting goes well. Several human scientists begin to work with the collectors, and the time to map human DNA is reduced from 1 day to 12 hours. Screenings begin to go faster, and over the next few months another 20,000 matches are confirmed. Initially only 1,000 tests could be done a day, which would have taken approximately 33,000 years to test the approximately 12 billion humans. The addition of the collectors increases capacity to an initial 20,000 tests per day, which reduces the total testing time to approximately 1,6,000 years, though the ability to actually gather genetic samples holds up the process. All Sol Alliance military and official government positions are tested first. Needlessly, Harbinger is informed of the testing rates. He merely states that he is a patient being. March 15, 2153, Wydron returns from orbit around the Sun. Humanity is shocked, while Harbinger is pleased. Wydron, formerly a 160 meters long destroyer-class ship, is now a 1.5 kilometers long Sovereign-class SIL. Humanity is pleased when a message is received from Yang Levi and he steps out of the new Wydron. It is revealed that they now share one mind, though two bodies. They agreed to name themselves Dan Savai. While the SIL form is still vaguely prawn-like, it is now blockier, and a variety of different weapons are recorded during scans, as are engines. Information about the exact changes is shared amongst the SIL and the highest level of the Sol Alliance. Speculation about the change that will occur to a capital-class SIL during synthesis abounds, though the SIL refused to comment. March 16, 2153. Dan Savai uploads a blog from Yang Livai which describes the process of synthesis. Those humans, who had decided to wait, read it and accept the concept. Just under 30,000 humans and SIL are undergoing the process of synthesis. April 3, 2153, in private blogs on the extranet, comment is made that while some humans had refused synthesis on various grounds, not one of them has been authorized to depart Earth for colony worlds. They are effectively being kept prisoner on Earth. April 21, 2153. The term, SIL partner, is formally coined. It designates a human whose DNA is found to be a match to the SIL. Humanity announces that further genetic testing facilities have been constructed, raising the numbers that can be tested to 1 million per day. This reduces the total testing time to 33 years, barring no further improvement in technology. More streamlined plans for blanket testing are created, including the instigation of genetic sampling during polling at elections and prior to all medical procedures. May 27, 2153, it is openly revealed to the public that the body of Yang Livai is now highly cybernetic. He does not appear disturbed and informs others that Wydron now has organic characteristics to counter. He explains that this is what synthesis is. Wydron is no longer fully synthetic and Yang Livai is no longer fully organic. They have merged to remove the weakness in both. June 3, 2153, in the wake of the public revelation that Yang Livai has become extensively cybernetic, two further terms are coined to describe the synthesized. Silo and C-human, silo synthetic intelligent life, organic and cybernetic enhanced human. The combined entity is generally referred to as SOCL, synthetic organic cybernetic life. Each SOCL proudly displays on their side their name, though some offer two names, one for the C-human and one for the silo. A few adopt the crest of the Sol Alliance. October 13, 2153, Hannah Shepard is confirmed to be pregnant. November 9, 2153, the general public is made aware that exploration efforts have found another 5 worlds suitable for colonization. December 29, 2153, the design of Arcturus Station is announced. While the main human government will remain on Earth, as colonization and the human sphere of influence expand, the station will act as a hub between all human worlds. April 11, 2154, Hannah Shepard gives birth. As per regulation, no DNA test is done upon her child, Jane Shepard, though many wish to. September 30, 2154, the first commercially available cybernetic implants based on designs adapted from SOCLs become available. Enhanced eyesight and hearing prove popular as smaller enhancements. Those who can afford it enjoy stronger bones and muscles. Nothing has yet been developed to enhance the computing power of a human mind. August 20, 2155, a second world, Eden Prime, is settled. January 1, 2156, the Sol Alliance formally changes its name to the Systems Alliance, stating that as humanity is no longer confined to the Sol system, their name has been updated to reflect this. The Systems Alliance is the face of humanity that any aliens will see. Though the last thing any alien entering the Sol system unauthorized will see is the fireball that was their ship. March 19, 2156, Terra Nova is colonized. September 29, 2157, the first true human Mass Effect ship comes online. It was designed and built utilizing advances made from incorporating the technology Harbinger and the SILs provided, and the new ship is considered to be Dreadnought, Sovereign class, named the Everest. The hulls of 4 more have already been laid. August 3, 2159. The annual test of Systems Alliance cyber warfare firewalls is conducted by the SIL. For the first time ever they last a full minute against SIL assault. Much more work needs to be done if they are to become impenetrable, but it's a start and a vast improvement over initial encounters. November 21, 2160, the Thanksgiving incident, a probe of unknown origin is detected entering the Sol system. It is destroyed before it even finishes deceleration by the SIL fleet with one precise shot. Instead of increasing tensions between humans and the SIL, the incident serves to cement humanity's acceptance of the SIL. It proves that they will uphold their agreement. No alien will ever be allowed into the Sol system without humanity's express permission. August 3, 2161, in the annual cyber warfare firewall test, the aim of 2 minutes is reached. However, that test was conducted by a SIL. When the firewall is reconstructed and the first SOCL, Dan Savai, repeats it, the firewall falls in 3 seconds. It's back to the drawing board for humanity's cyber warfare resistance. Dan Savai states that he could break the code so quickly because he understood human minds as well as the cold logic of synthetic code. February 18, 2164, Arcturus Station comes online. It fulfills its intended role of being a vibrant economic hub between worlds, but surprisingly it also becomes a hub for scientific research. Humanity is still working to create actual AIs, though VIs have been commonplace for many years. The SEAL have said nothing on this, though most humans believe they would be amused, and for teams working on AI creation, it has been agreed that should any exist and the question about life is posed by the new entity, the answer should be the truth. We are organic life. We believe you to be synthetic life which we have created. Welcome to the galaxy. August 3, 2165, in the cyber warfare firewall test, the firewalls are now lasting half an hour against the SIL and 2 minutes against the SOCL. More development is needed, but it is heartening. Some SEAL inform humanity that against any race in the galaxy the firewalls would be impenetrable. December 25, 2168, human supremacist group, God is Might, capture a sea human and demand that both the SEALs and SOCLs leave human territory. They hold a small, heavily fortified position at the South Pole. Their demands are not met and System Alliance Marines take heavy losses storming their facility. God is Might were prepared for that and detonate a small tactical nuke that, if their last broadcast is to be believed, had been strapped to the sea human. Instantly, the base is destroyed, every Systems Alliance Marine is killed and the silo above goes insane. Other SOCLs are forced to contain them and through sheer weight of numbers the silo is dragged back to the North Pole. The Systems Alliance can only watch as Harbinger questions the silo and then to the shock of all watching, destroys them. 3 minutes later, a transcript is broadcast on every frequency to the entire world. Along with Harbinger's demand that every member of God is Might is surrendered to him. The incident serves to galvanize humanity into several factions, those who want the SIL to leave immediately, those who are accepting and those who are still cautious, still waiting for the trap to close. For the latter, it has shown them what it takes to kill a SOCL, but they are still in the dark as to what it would take to kill a SIL. Discreetly, sensors capable of tracking sea humans are developed, though they have some trouble differentiating between sea humans and the highly cybernetic Special Forces Marines. After their trial, the leaders of God is Might, a combined group of priests, rabbis, shamans, imams and other religious figures representing, as one reporter said, the worst of every religion on earth, they are quietly surrendered to Harbinger. None are ever seen again. End Chapter 2, Mass Effect, Synthesis. Thank you for listening. Join me again to listen to the next chapter.